All right, chapter 3, decimals, and we'll jump to page 2, and let's start taking a look at it. Okay, so this is asking us to write the number in expanded form. What we're looking for is we're looking at each of the place values. So this is our tens, this is our ones, this is our tenths, 1 over 10, hundredths, thousands. So we're going to write 2 times our tens, plus 7 times our ones, plus 0 times our tenths, or 0.1, plus 5 times our hundredths, or 0.01, plus 3 times our thousandths, or 0.001. And this is our expanded form. Problem number 2 asks us to round to the nearest 10. So we are going to round this value, and we're going to look here, and this is what we want to look at. Is it above 5 or below 5? Since it's below 5, we're going to drop this and round it down, and we'll keep the 1 for 0.0000, and we drop those 4 out. Number 3 asks us to round to the nearest tenth. So we are rounding to this decimal place, and we see the 5 tells us we're going to bump it up, 142.1000. And normally when you round to the nearest tenth, you will drop off all those and keep just that value, just that portion. Round to the nearest hundredth. So tenth, hundredth, this is the value we want. We're a 4, we're going to drop it down. So 142.05. And that's our nearest hundredth. With our operation, we can add these manually. You can rearrange these and line it up as 25.24 over 3.27 and use your regular algorithm. But we're going to use a calculator for our decimal values. So I'm going to type in 25.24, adding 3.27, equal to get my total, and I'm getting a grand total of 28.51. For subtraction, similar process, you can write it as a vertical, so 6.57 minus the 4.281. Realize if we needed another decimal place here, we can add it in, subtract it, but we're going to use our calculator to solve it. So we got 6.57 minus 4.281, and we get our grand total of 2.289. Turning to our next page. For decimal multiplication, we can take our 4.2, multiply it by 2.5, and we get a 10.5. For our next one, division, 11.2 over 1.75, and we can divide these. 11.2 divided by 1.75. And we get 6.4. For the next value, we're taking 107.35. We're adding 29.561 and adding 1039.4. And we're getting a grand total of 11763.311 for our total. On number 10, we could add our numbers vertically and carry using your regular process, checking our values with the calculator. In this case, I'm going to plug it right in directly to 4.278 plus 37.146, and we get a grand total of 41 0.424. When we're adding these, notice that our values line up here with the decimal points. So notice that they line up with the decimal places on here. As we plug our numbers in, 12.057 plus 3.0, oops, added an extra 0.0685 plus 143.0 plus 5.07, and we get our grand total of 163.1955. For subtraction, 46.527 minus 18.23, and we get our total of 28.297. For multiplication, we can take 102.035 and we can multiply it by 2.8, and we get 285.698. Okay, convert decimal to a fraction in the simplest form. So if we realize this is our tenths, hundredths, thousandths, means we can write this over 1,000, and we can write the 875. If we want to convert this to our simplest form, we could find our multiples, break it down to, because it ends in 0 and 5, we can find multiples of 5 to get into here. We're going to use our fraction tool on here. 875 over 1,000. And we get 7/8 for our final value. Okay. Another way of doing this on the calculator is we can type in the 0.875, and up here where it has the blue F to D, that's our fraction to decimal, we can hit second F to D and we can change it from a decimal to a fraction and get our 7/8 back that way. Number 15 asks us convert the decimal to a mixed number in its simplest form. If you know that this is 25, you could say, well, we've got 1725 over 10, or we could break it apart in a mixed number of 17 and 25 over, over 100, which reduces to 17 1/4. Alternately, on our calculator, we can do 17.25 fraction to decimal, and we'll get 17 1/4. Okay, converting a fraction to a decimal, you could do this by long division. You could take your numerator, 3, and divide it by 5, and multiply it out. You'd have to add a 0, and we say, well, that gives us 0.6. We get 0. Alternately, on your calculator, you can just take 3 divided by 5, and that'll get you to your decimal value. So our 0.6 for our decimal value. Mixed number to a decimal, we can enter it in 9 fraction 13 over 25, and we get a mixed number of 9 whole units, and 13 over 25. We want to convert that to a decimal, so we can do second fraction decimal, and we get 9.52. Now we're going to convert a fraction to a decimal, round it to the nearest hundredth. So if we take 13 divided by 16, we get 0.8125. We want it to the nearest hundredths, so this is the decimal place we're looking at. This tells us that we're rounding down, so 0.81, and we drop it there. All right, we get into some of our last sets of problems here. Okay, they want us to convert the mixed number to a decimal and round to the nearest hundredth. So if we do 12 fraction 17 fraction 22, and we can do fraction to decimal, we come up with 12.77272727, and we're rounding to the nearest hundredth, so 10th, 100th. This is where we're looking. Looks like we're rounding down, so 12.77 for our final answer. Okay, here we have some data from some months. They want us to take each of these and round to the nearest 10 meters. So on here we are looking for that decimal place, and this tells us to bump it up. 10, we're going to bump it up. 10, this one bumps it up. So we get 760, so undo that. 761, 0.00, and because we're only rounding the nearest 10 meters, we can drop off that piece. Our next one, 9010, rounding to the nearest 10, and then 11160, rounding to the nearest 10. Okay, number 21 tells us that they want us to round each to the nearest meter. So we're going to round here. This tells us we're going to bump it up. Round here, we'll drop. Round to here, and we'll drop. So 7609, 9006, and then 11157. 22 tells us they want that they have the same amounts, and we want to round to the nearest 10th meter. So that is this place. Looks like we're going to bump it up because it's a 5. This place we're going to drop. This place we're going to drop. So our last one, 11157.2, 9006.0, and then our 7608.9, because that one rounds up. Okay, our last three problems. So in a series circuit, it's the sum of the individuals. We're going to basically add them all together. So we're going to add 1.64 plus 0.88 plus 1.46 plus 0.654 plus 1.12 plus 1.3. And we're going to get our grand total. So 1.64 plus 0.88 plus 1.46 plus 0.654 plus 1.12 plus 1.3. And for our grand total, we are getting 7.054. And our resistance is in ohms. Number 24. 1 week Sally earned this much money. Her income tax was this much, deducted from her paycheck. She also had this much withheld for Social Security. Assuming nothing was withheld, what was her take-home pay? So if we're starting with the 758.35, and this is how much she had to pay, we're going to subtract 106.40, and then Social Security will 47.02 is subtracted as well. So with this subtraction problem, 758.35 1.35 minus 106.40 minus 47.02, and we get our grand total of $604.93. Problem number 25. We have a voltage, has a certain resistor connected to it. With our value, we're going to calculate the current by dividing the 1.2 by 0.25. So I'm going to take 1.2 divided by 0.25, and I get 4.8. And then amps is what the units are for this one.